All right. Well, hey everyone, thank you so much for coming back and being a part of our conversation again. Uh, Victoria and I are here. Jabbar has had appointments. Has had he's at an appointment right now, and so a little bit of a change of pace with him being out. This is the first one he's missed. Um, but yeah, so we're here and we're gonna just start talking and jumping right on in. Um, and it'll be really good. Um, Victoria, we were talking earlier about uh, again that focus on families, and I guess the reason why I keep coming back to families is because when we started this conversation, it's all about communities, and the immediate community that we always come to is going to be the household. It's that family unit that's the immediate proximity. Um, and I know so many of our viewers, they've got families, they've got loved ones, many of them share homes and all that kind of stuff, and so um yeah, I think just the idea of that immediate impact, whether it's children or parents or siblings, um having that impact on the recovery journey. And so um yeah, just one of those things, I guess, for me that I think is unique is um with your role as a recovery specialist. I'm simplifying your title.
Yeah, it's okay.
It needs to be bigger.
Yeah.
But just that idea that I'm 100% positive that when you meet with your clients and you meet with these individuals that you're helping through this process, that many of them have kids of their own,
Mhm.
um, and from various ages. From infants all the way up to fully grown and out of the house, and some might even have grandkids. And when I say grandkids, I'm not talking like infant grandchildren. I'm talking like, yes, my grandson is 15.
Yeah.
You know, um, what is the how does having those young ones impact that? I mean, I there's the overall arching, but I mean, what is like what is the impact on kids in that environment?
So I will say that from my own experience, first and foremost, as spoken in previous episodes, like I had turned myself into prison already in recovery.
Yes.
Okay, so I already had my immediate family and my extended family and my church family and my community, which all in all we are all connected. But I had this line of people that were like, why can't things be different? Because she's putting the work forward.
Right.
She's doing what she needs to do. So in the aspect of while I was in addiction, it was like, what do we do with her?
Right.
And it's like, silently hurting because they don't want to upset you or they don't want to, so they're just like let you be in your mess.
Kind of handling you with kid gloves in the
Yeah,
sense
it's like,
of
oh,
because
like, yeah, don't
you,
cry.
you made the comment before we just started about having I view myself as having leprosy,
Yes, yes.
and that
I'm in a
I can see that mentality of like, oh yep, we're not going to touch this person just yet because we don't know how infectious that
Right,
is.
right. So we're just gonna let them be there and be them in their mess because we don't really know too much about it. We don't really want to get it worse, and we don't want to do this. And so it's just like this line of caution that actually enables, without intent though.
Right.
And I say that because it's not that like your loved ones intend to enable you or they intend
Right.
to progress in your.
There's no
addiction.
intention.
Never. No,
Right.
it's just it's not being aware of what's actually needed by the individual because everyone's program is different. Everyone
Right.
needs to be handled a little differently, but it's the fact that open communication is the biggest thing.
Right.
So in my own experience, here my family, I have, 8 siblings. I have um I have 32 nieces and nephews. I have, very big household.
Yeah.
So in that household in which we all grew up, very in contact.
Yep.
So my nieces and nephews come over on the weekends and we go to church on Sunday and this is something that we have done. And so when I was taken away in the middle of my recovery, which was granted me opportunities, is
Right.
how my mindset went.
Right.
But in their mindset, it was like taken. I was taken.
You were stolen from them,
Yes,
essentially. Yeah.
and it was like all these unanswered questions, like, do they not see the chain effect, all the way
Right.
down to the little girl at the church, or the,
Yeah.
that you see every morning, and it's a frequent hello, or
Right.
you're tying the ribbon in their hair, or things that I did regularly that now is not getting done, and it's affecting these individuals.
Hmm.
So like my niece got severely depressed while I was gone,
Yeah.
like severely depressed, because that constant in her life was now gone. Because in our recovery, we build support, we build a recovery team, and we build the people that we can
Right.
show our spots to
Right.
openly, and now they know how to approach the spots, and they know
Right.
how to sit down with you and be like, hey, I hear you, I see you, without even saying a word.
So then this must be really difficult then in terms of like with children,
Yes.
because you get to learn how to be approached as the one in recovery. You get to learn how to have the support system. This person knows how to come to me. They know how to talk. They know how to talk to me. Um, if you need to get that, we can
Oh
pause.
no, it's okay.
Okay. Um, I have this new watch now, and so now my wrist will like vibrate when I get a call. Um, but no, in that sense, going back to that, you develop that response to that, and but for other people outside that, they might not recognize how that the ignorance plays a big part in how to do that, and then as an adult dealing with something with ignorance, it's almost like I'm gonna make a mistake. I'll apologize.
And
We'll
it'll
go
be
from here.
done, we'll
It'll be
move
done.
on.
But for children,
It's not the case.
it's not. I mean, they almost have to have a complete rebuilding
Yes, it's
in order to respond to
it's
that.
like resetting your time clock. So like your sleep clock that everybody has internally.
Hmm.
If you start messing it up, your hours, like if you
Oh
go to
yeah.
bed a little later, then you have to restart that all over again. Literally in a week's time, you have to start at one time, and then every day go to bed 1 hour later.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have to do this because it builds that stamina back up. It builds that reality of having that similarity.
Yeah.
Okay, so for instance, like in my household, it literally was like my children are like, oh my god, what happened, where did my mom go,
Right.
gone. So whether in my head, I'm like, it's almost like I had to look at it two ways. I could have took it as it looked like I either could have been ran off in my addiction because I
Right.
still would have been absent.
Yeah. No. Because and that's a
you know
mindset that many people do go into.
yeah, so like it was like, okay, well, if I had ran off and got high and just was gone,
Yeah.
it'd be the same absence. But then I had to overcome that idea and be like, it's not, because I'm in a better place,
Hmm.
and I need to make sure I stay on that footing.
Right.
And but to them, it's a whole
Right.
different world because I'm still gone.
Hmm.
So I'm still working on bettering me,
Right.
but they're still left without that knowledge of, well, what's going on. They're still without.
Right.
So like for instance, again, my niece we're super close. I have lots of nieces and nephews, but
We said
but
35.
yeah, so
Man.
but she was there every weekend, and so like her grades started failing, and her, and like it really affected people. Like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Well,
What's
and
wrong with you?
for a child, they don't know how. And I'm going to use the word verbalize it. They don't know
Yes.
how to communicate what's
No.
wrong. They know something's off.
Right.
They know that the loved one's gone,
Right.
but to be able to connect the two
And how
as
to,
equal,
yeah,
that's kind of,
and
it can be
yeah,
difficult. Depending on it depends on the age. I mean,
right,
an older teenager might be like, yeah, this is what's going on. I'm not liking this. This is a struggle for me.
right,
And they
but
might
for
be
the
like,
older ones, they're even more conflicted, though, I've learned, because they're like,
yes,
why? But we're taught that if you do good, you don't get punished,
right,
later on down the road. Because
right,
you think about when you punish a child, you don't tell them 2 hours later, oh, you were bad 2 hours ago, so now you have to go sit down. You immediately nip it in the bud.
yeah. Well, I think, and I think that's the hard part too. Is like the difference between punishment and accountability.
Yes, there's a big
Like
difference.
accountability, we view accountability, even though it's a hard subject, we view it as a good thing. Accountability doesn't have the black spot on
It
it.
doesn't have shame
There's
connected
no
to it.
shame on it that the word punishment has.
Right, no. Punishment is like a one and done. Like
Yeah.
it's supposed to lead that. And that's why punishment is a lot of the policies and laws that have to do with like the old DOC
Hmm.
has in there like punishment. Like so
Right.
like for CIP boot camp, which I just graduated,
Yeah.
in the law it states punishment.
Yeah.
Like they are allowed to punish us.
Oh
That
wow.
means like, But and you get that in the hands of the wrong person,
Right.
and they will run with it. And legally, they are inclined to run with it. There's
Right.
nothing stopping that because that's there in the law.
Wow.
And so they use punishment, not like reform or not. It's punishment.
Right.
So when you think about punishing a loved one or punishing an addict in addiction or in recovery,
Right.
you have to think about, do you want them to walk with shame or do you want them to grow
Right.
and have accountability and have awareness? And that is the difference right there. Is, do you want to? For me, it's like, I don't want people to be like, oh, you're a, for instance, I've had people in the past who didn't know my situation
Right.
and was like, just read bits and pieces and was like, oh, well, who are you to, how can you even be around so, young people? And I've never had a violent crime or anything like
Right.
that. But the fact that I was about to go to prison, they're like, you must be a bad person.
Right.
And that is like that punishment on judgment,
Right.
on holding like something I did in the past, but not who I am.
Well, and that's why, like in our family, very rarely, if ever, will we use the word "you're being punished" for this.
Right.
Um, for us, it's one of the words I love is the word discipline, because it comes from the same root for the word disciple, which means student. And so when I'm going to discipline somebody, I'm teaching you something.
Yeah,
because the idea is you're not going to just sit there and be like, okay, you're going to receive this harsh, slap across the face and stay there. No, it's
the eye for an eye type of stuff is the punishment.
That's the punishment.
Yeah.
Whereas discipline is
It's waking up and learning how to fish.
you're going to, you didn't make your bed. Okay, so now you got to sleep in it. Like it's the idea of like learning and taking that steps up, and I think for children to recognize that when their loved one has to go into a recovery program, or when the child has, whatever that is don't use the word punishment. Don't use the word. I mean, yes,
know better. Or like there's certain things like don't say know better, or don't say things like like it's we're learning.
If you're learning, but if you want to create a healthier environment, if I'm not saying healthy because that defines a goal line, but if you want to create a stronger environment, the idea is you want to make sure that this child has the right perspective in what's going on, whether if as they watch their parent, or in your case their aunt, watching their father or grandparent have to go into recovery. I mean, you love your kids, you love your nieces and your nephews. I mean, it's so funny. I grew up in a home where no one was allowed to beat up my brother but me, and like that mentality, right? So, but that whole idea is no one's allowed to touch my nieces and my nephews. Like that Uncle Ryan will come in and will lay down the law on those people. If something happens to them and my sibling calls me to say, "Hey, their child is in this mess," I'll be there in a heartbeat, because I love them so much, And so that mentality now comes in. It's like, okay, I still wanted to have that relationship with them, and we're gonna come back from recovery. We're gonna come back from the program and be reintroduced back into this family. Okay, what's the thinking gonna be like?
Right. So like for me, so like as a child, I was sent because of my own actions. Like, like I said, I grew up in a loving home, mom, dad, married still to this day in my whole life.
Yep.
But I was dealing with trauma that I never handled. That I didn't know how to handle. I didn't speak out about. I didn't, and so in that aspect, I was misbehaving and I was leaving my safe home and going and running around and doing, getting in fights. And
you want to find that place where you find acceptance, where you find value, where you find
mess.
Yeah.
Because then you just blend in.
Well, yeah. No, well, if this is messier than my home, then my home looks good.
Right. Okay. And so in that aspect, so I got put in boot camp when I was a teenager.
Okay.
Work camp is what they used to do for kids. Now they just put them in a group home and they give them lattes and, no accountability there.
Oh yeah. No. Well, it varies by group home, because my I had family that worked in children's homes.
Which we don't even have a group home here, not really anymore.
Really?
We don't have a group home here. We don't have a women's shelter. We don't have none of that stuff,
Oh, wow.
And so that is a big break too. But
yeah,
it's a work in progress.
Right. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
that's something we're working towards.
Always making trying to make
Yes,
improvements.
but for me, here I was in this placement away from my home.
Mm-hmm.
So here, there was that communication break was still there because here I got in trouble.
Right.
Then I went to the courts. Then I got taken from my parents
Right.
and put in this work camp
Right.
where I work all day long. I'll cut wood, I'll whatever, because
Yeah.
you're still not sitting and dealing with what's in here.
Well, you know, and I'm going for distractions,
Right.
which
Okay.
which Jay and I have talked about before. Of the need to have a distraction,
Right.
the need to sit there and pull your energy into something else
Yes.
other than the addiction.
Yes. And so for me, it was the chaos is what I was addicted to.
Mm-hmm.
And so going to work camp, so here it's my family left without understanding what was going through my head.
Right.
Because I'm way up north.
All they're
And they're
thinking
way
of,
down here.
she's messed up. She needs to go get help.
Yeah,
Let's
she's
just
gonna
send
get
her.
help. And they didn't even want the courts decided that for them.
Oh wow.
And so in that aspect here, there, my mom worked full time, my dad worked full time, my brothers were like, "What happened?" My community was like, "Huh?" The kids my age were like, "Yeah," you know what I mean?
Right.
But and here I was
Independent.
tucked away in this isolated environment, not in my community,
Right.
but away. So what? Cutting wood, hiking, doing all these
Right.
things with all these other peers my age. That yes, we were working on punishment,
Mm-hmm.
hence why it was work camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a temporary time away from our chaos
Right.
to complete a time in a manner of time, and then to come back to our chaos because we didn't know how to intertwine them. So there was not awareness for me as a child.
Right.
There was not awareness for my family and community. Instead, it's like this break where it's like instead of intertwining the two and having that environment in the community that you're gonna live in, it still left that break.
Right.
So this was like a repeated process several times because I go there, I grade A there at the camp, knocked it off the wall,
Oh yeah.
and then come home and I'd be back in my environment that I never learned how to be in.
Well, and that's because I've seen this too, where like in certain places where when you leave your home environment and you get put into an external one, you can reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
You can invent a new you
Right.
in that way. I mean, I, in my experience, who has not done that?
Right.
Okay, question, because even I've done that. Where I go off to like I'm contextualizing it, but I've gone off to like a youth camp, and I'm at a weekend retreat, right? I'm like, do I want to be the nerdy kid that everyone's like, oh wow, him, or do I want to be the cool guy? So I go to be the cool guy at camp. I reinvent myself there, and that's fun. And then you come back, and then it's like you go through the withdrawal. You come back, and you're like, I'm back in this little environment, and then guess what? You're in that old environment. Then the old habits take over.
Yes, it's like wearing the many different faces, the masks. It's like those dolls, that I talked about before, the Russian dolls, where like you open it up and there's another doll. And there's another doll.
Well, and then the community learns to recognize that, and so you reinvent yourself. This is wonderful. Well, then you come back and like, okay, again, the habitual pattern, because you talk about as a teenager taken out of mom and dad's place.
Right. But they don't get to see you over there.
No, they don't. And so they expect either a fixed you or you come back and okay, the pattern kicks in again.
Right.
And
there's that break between, even though this element gets put here and this big element that
it keeps moving.
It keeps moving, so then you get put back in. And so whether you're the adult addict, a youth addict, and not even just an addict, but mental instabilities, like all these different challenges that we face as humans.
Right.
If there's not an open line of communication saying, hey, when I wake up and if I put my coffee pot on and I can't have my coffee because I'm letting all these other things interfere with my morning, I'm not going to be right the rest of the day.
Right.
Just as simple as that little statement.
Right.
And someone understanding that's in your environment.
Right.
Can totally set the whole day for a different path.
Well, and that's so fun because I say, I don't know, I use the word that way. that's so fun. Interesting is what I mean, because so from my house, my home, my wife is the one who wakes up at 4:45, 5 a.m. every day, if not 4:30 in the mornings. That's when she wakes up, and she plans her stuff, but if she doesn't get that, like her day is off. And I'm not saying she has a dirty attitude. She doesn't. She's amazing. She is Wonder Woman in our home. but it's how much of I can come home and tell, oh, she did not get that part of her day done.
Right.
Oh, she
Like
did not get
that's
that.
self care.
It
Like
is,
that's a need.
and it's the same thing for me. I have my self care pattern. Like this is how I do
Whether
things.
it's sitting in your car for 5 minutes
Oh yeah,
or just anything that helps that. And so same with addiction, same with
yeah,
recovery, same with getting that dual diagnosis of the mental health and the addiction, and even addictions that aren't
right.
chemically induced, like just patterns of habits.
Well, it's the yeah patterns of habits, and then like some are not chemically in, like the way I view addictions is, and this is how big of the addiction is there's a chemical released in the brain
Yeah,
when
oxytocin.
you are indulging in a particular activity,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whatever that activity is. You're going to a place of comfort, a place of release,
Mm-hmm.
a place of, and you're going into that habitual motion to get that chemical
Yes.
that your brain is like, I need to feel this right.
Mm-hmm.
I need to feel this way today. And so you become addicted to that internal chemical release. And so, I mean, overall, we do talk about that. The main subject is substance addiction on this, but the idea is, I personally, I don't want to limit it.
Well, no, because it stems greater than that.
Yeah.
The chemicals come after the fact.
Yes.
And that's where you don't just wake up one day and be like, hey, I want to get high today, or hey, I want to drink
No.
a fifth of vodka today, or I want to, I
Right.
want to destroy my life and everyone's around me.
Right. No. No one thinks that way.
Nobody. That's never the intent. A lot of times you're already like schmoozing into it because you're not dealing with other things, and then by the time you're there, you're like, oh, so then it's like I seen this clip one time of this little bright little yellow duck, and it's like running towards this balloon, and it's jumping and it's jumping and it jumps up, pops the balloon, and it's like filled brighter. You like the
Yeah.
little duck fills up even brighter, and then it drops and hits the ground, and then it runs faster, trying to get the balloon again,
Yeah.
and then it jumps up, and but it's not as bright every time it hits it. It's not as bright, and so it's just running itself till there's no color left in the duck.
Yeah.
And that right there is if we don't have that balance and we don't have the accountability of people around us, and
Mm-hmm.
like even as far as like now that I am home and I am in recovery, and I was in recovery before, but I had that break while I was gone.
Right.
My kids are still learning to trust me because every time I walk out the door, like, is she coming back?
Right.
Because they had me every day of their life until I had to go walk myself into prison. And then they're like, they wake up one day and their mommy's not there. And
Well, and they
they
have to
couldn't cognitively
no, they
understand
can't.
that.
And for them, they need to learn that. Like they have to relearn
Trust.
relearn that trust, get that rebuilt. And I love the allegory of building something,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
because you can't just sit there and build a structure, and you can't just put a frame up on dirt and say, okay, here it is.
Without knowing what's underneath it.
You got to have a foundation.
Yes.
You got to have a foundation to build upon. And um, you know, for children especially, um, before they come to an understanding of faith, before they come to an understanding of the Lord and all that kind of stuff, on that higher power, for them, a child's foundation is their parents.
Yes. And
And
what
and
they intercede. Yeah.
and but see that, and that's the thing, like, a child and a parent's relationship is a multi-storied building. You have different floors, right? And so a child is building upon their parents. Their child has to build upon their parents. So the child is the second, third, fourth, fifth, how many kids you got. That's that floor
Mm-hmm.
on top of the parent's first floor. And so the parent can't sit there and say, okay, my child's gonna be my foundation,
Because
because what
upper
happens,
level.
it's if you want to build on top of your child, then when your child fails you, your foundation's failed you.
Yeah.
And that's like the idea, like, or building on top of a spouse.
And
Yes,
that's the same
it's
aspect of I'm doing this for so and so. No, you
yeah.
need to do it for yourself.
When a loved one dies, who's your inspiration's gone. When someone when a child fails, and when I say fails, I mean, I'm using it very broadly, because some people's version of a child failing them is going to be different than others.
Right.
They go into addiction themselves, or a 13-year-old comes and says, "Hey, I got so and so pregnant," or I mean that kind of stuff. It
Well,
it impacts,
yeah.
and so for a parent, you can't build upon a fallacious foundation. You need to have that solid foundation first, so that all the other lives that are built on yours, that that you are responsible for, that you are holding up. Um, I had someone tell us me the other day. They were watching me and my oldest play around in the church here, and they looked at us and they go, "Are you sure he's your parent? You guys act more like friends than father and son." And
Yeah.
I put my kid in a headlock. He knows who daddy is. He knows that daddy's still the law. He knows, I turned it on, and made it something fun, but it's that idea that they have to be built upon something else
Right,
stronger.
right. And in essence, like I am beyond grateful that my parents have always laid a firm foundation for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they are the pure example of like commitment and love and having a higher power and
Well, you
surrendering.
and you grew up with that.
Yes,
Like they had this foundation, and you were built on top of that.
yes.
Um, and there's a great pattern in there. Um, but like every time there's a moment where like the child grows up and now you're the adult.
Right. Well, and in the aspect of even like when my father's been really ill, um, and my mother is a Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
and my dad has the heart of gold, but he is my best friend. And when I went in, I had to correct myself because I felt shame as a daughter because here's my father sick and here's my mom taking care of everything and then I have
Right.
my kids in my home and then I just felt like less than in moments where I'm like I should have been there. But
Right.
when we use the I should have's, you're crippling your own ability to be full force and moving forward.
Yep.
So I had to constantly remind myself. So in those aspects of dealing with family members that are recovering or trying to recover or for it's just reminding them that you're not a failure. This is a building
Right.
block moment. And that's why one of my favorite things is your mess is your message.
Yeah.
Like take your mess
Right.
and do something great with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So others
You
see
can't
it.
you can't undo
No,
what's already done in the past.
no.
I had a family member tell me one time we were talking about stuff and talking about mistakes that had happened, and he he goes, so this is gonna sound really weird. He goes, don't be offended when I say this. I go, okay. And he goes, don't shoulda on yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And he said, don't should
Right.
on yourself. Should've, could've, would've. He goes, what's past is past. Don't sit there. He goes, aim forward and build for the next moment.
Yeah.
And that's
And
yeah.
that aspect where it's like mistakes. Sometimes we don't realize that mistakes that have happened in our life are already meant to be there to get us to where we're supposed to be. It's
There
just what we do with it moving forward.
there's a scripture, there's a passage in Second Corinthians chapter 1, where Paul is writing to the church of Corinth, and he's telling them um, that when they go through sufferings, that that when they're suffering, they get to give their comfort to somebody else. That when they go through season difficulties, it's to give comfort to somebody else.
And
And it's
that following that down though to 2 Corinthians 12:8 is where he says,
yeah,
I asked you once, I asked you twice, I asked you three times, please take this from me. But if he would have took that from him, if our father would have took that, he
right,
wouldn't have that ground to stand on to comfort someone
right.
else in that time.
And that's the thing. Like we go through season of difficulty, and so maybe this might be encouraging for those that are in the recovery process right now. Is your battle that you're facing, that you're in the process of overcoming,
Yes.
is don't feel shame in that.
Mm-mm.
Own it, celebrate it, give what you're receiving, and give it to others who need that same conflict, that are going through that need that same comfort, that need that same strength, that same resource. And so you get to take your struggles and your difficulties and pass them to somebody else.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I love my job. Like
yeah,
someone's like, "Aren't you tired?" I was speaking with one of my agents, and I was like, "She's like, days are pretty filled. Like you gotta have time for self care. I said my job is my self care
Oh
because
yeah.
I get to give back into my own recovery while helping and standing alongside participants and peers. You
Yeah.
know, like it is so fulfilling. Like and I'm so grateful that MMPRA took me
Yeah.
on and like let me be a part of the team and like
Oh
we
yeah.
are rocking it. Like it is super exciting. I get super
Yeah.
excited because of the fact that like it's not like a building somewhere, which I'm not shaming buildings. I'm just
No,
saying
no.
is that it is like the roots growing on the grounds, on the streets, like just reaching everywhere.
Well,
And
it's
it's so
that
amazing.
idea, like it's not
It's not
work.
isolated.
It's not a job. It's not work to you. It's
No,
not.
it fulfills me, and I
Yes.
never understood that concept. I understood that concept growing up, but like I worked my butt off a lot. Like I if I was working one job, I'd work two jobs, three jobs,
Hmm.
four jobs, and I just became addicted to the work, you
Yep.
know. And then now I know what it's like, and what it really feels like to work and be fulfilled by the work I'm doing, not just checking it off the list. Like, oh, I just went to work today. No,
Yep.
I love it, you know. And so it's because I get to fill myself and fill others with my experience.
Yes.
And so that's where the beauty comes in. And that's where like my family has been on this roller coaster with me of
Yep.
like not addiction, in recovery, well, in sobriety,
Right.
then relapsed, you know, after almost a decade, and then found myself, started building a relationship with myself,
Hmm.
and then got into recovery
Right.
and then started going from there and then had to go even though things are going right and they're moving forward, life happens.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing that for families, for everyone to just be open and honest as you can be, and understanding that even though we're in recovery, that doesn't mean our days are going to be all fine and dandy,
No.
you know. And so if everyone just has a little bit of patience and the willingness to say, hey, I don't understand, can you share this with
Yeah.
me?
There's so many great principles for living, no matter what area of life you're going through, what mess in life, and I say mess because a season. Okay, we're getting ready in Minnesota. We're getting ready for winter,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So we're gonna get the mess of winter.
Yeah,
Then you
we
have
got
the
to
mess.
prepare for that.
We gotta prepare. I spent the whole day yesterday, the whole day,
Winterizing.
cleaning my garage so I can park the car inside it.
Yes.
But all that to say that there's these seasons. No matter what we're in, there's so many great principles and value and insight, that the Bible has for people. And there's another, again, I bring it back because if you have an answer, if you have a question, there's an answer in the Bible for it.
Yes.
And this is why, like, if you don't know what high power to go for, call me. Come to the church. I will tell you. Contact Victoria. She will
Yes.
tell you, because there is a higher power that works, that is true. And it's so funny, you talk about how life and mess happens, and that even though you come back from recovery, there's still messes going on, and there's still junk happening. That the Bible actually even tells us when there's disunity, how where do we go when we need unity? Where do we go when we need to have a strongness? And he says, in humility, view others higher than yourself, doing everything you can to build the bonds of peace. And for me, to take that and be like, okay, what does it mean to just to dwell in unity, and to see myself humbly, means I'm going to look at other people as more value than myself.
That's effective change right there.
It changes, and it's a dramatically different perspective, because we're not wired that way, and that's a hard thing to accept, is they're more valuable. And so, you know um for both sides of this coin, that I'm learning so much. Like, I feel like I don't have a degree in this, but man, after these things, I feel like I should. um but the idea of, okay, the person in recovery, they're more valuable than me. So, like, the child, my parent is more valuable than me. Now, that's a tall order.
Right.
But for the spouse, they're more valuable than me. And if we take that approach, um that can change homes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it views you know, taking that step back and saying, okay, what do you need today?
Yes.
I've talked with
Or
so
help me
many.
understand.
Yeah. Well, it's I've there is this is fascinating. Um, there's addicts who became so because their house was not peaceful and they were full of anxiety and stress. And so by indulging in the substance, that's giving them
Peace.
peace,
Yes.
air quotes. And and so that's what they did. Well, okay, if I'm the clean spouse in that environment and I see what they're doing, then to help them in recovery means I'm going to make sure I can make the house as stress free as possible. That what does that mean? It may mean that you got to clean the kitchen for them, or you might have to put the kids to bed
It's
every
like
night, or you.
unexpected help
Oh yeah,
that just shows them like, wow, I'm not
and
alone.
and without any self seeking,
Right.
without
Right.
any agenda, it's
Just being
no.
there.
I'm gonna put them more valuable and say, okay, this time, because we talk about going to the meetings, going
All
to the
while
gatherings.
respecting your own boundaries as
Yes,
well.
yeah,
And
you
that's
got
the
to stay
biggest
healthy.
thing.
That
Yeah.
is you as the community. We've
Yeah.
talked about this before. As a community, you have to be healthy. You have to be anchored in yourself.
Which I
Um,
will say that our community is, I mean, I am super grateful with as open and willing as all the different like cornerstones of our community have
oh
been
yeah,
coming together now, and they want to learn more about this, support and all these additional
yes.
things. And so I'm so grateful for that too.
It's fun,
Yeah.
and it's
It's
on
enlightening. Like
it is well, and so that kind of leads into this whole like for me because the community is coming together and stuff is happening and we're all coming around this on all sides. It's really funny because um, some sides view others as more meaningful than their own. It's just different.
right.
It's like it again on the Bible. Can the foot say I'd rather be a hand? Can the ear say I'd rather be a nose? No, then you're not whole.
It's the that's not my department
Yeah, yeah,
thing. But no,
exactly.
we are
That's
one department.
that
We are a
it's
community. We are a whole.
again the idea of this is such multifaceted. It's such multi-sided. There's so many details in and out that make this work. And so for us to um for like our corner is on the street level, we love like Jesus loved. I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna hug. I'm gonna be on call and I'll be there whenever I'm needed, etc. But then on the in the office, the ministerial side of it is we've got this podcast going where we have these discussions
Right.
to shed light on this stuff.
Yeah,
And
and to open it up and put it in there more in the air, and it's like
well,
we're here, we
yeah,
exist.
well, I mean, how many people are encouraged
Right.
by this? I don't get very often. I don't get the chance to do it because I also feel awkward doing it too. But I'll get on there once in a while and I'll read the comments. I'll see what people are saying because it can be encouraging at times. I feel awkward reading comments because I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? So I try, but at the same time, it's a
Right. And
but it's huge to see how people are encouraged by this.
right, and the other big thing too is that like as like peer support and like just community support and just being there as a person for even somebody you've never even spoken to and you're just standing next to them.
Yeah.
Just standing there next to them. It's we don't want to like feed them,
Right.
by mouth. We want to put the line in the water and show them what you can get out,
Yes.
and then replicate that over
Right.
and over and over again.
The idea is showing people there's a better way of life.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing is like there is something better. There's
Super.
I love being able to take parents and saying, hey, there's a better way to parent your child, or taking couples and say, hey, there's a better way to go about married life, or
And
there's
even just them seeing you interact with your child in a
oh yeah
manner that's different from what they may have only known, even without saying those crosswords, where they can just visually see that.
yeah.
Sometimes it's like, bing,
Well,
like, wow, that's okay.
well, it's so funny because the one of the couples that I'm marital counseling for right now is they every so often they come to my house. The weather's worked out great so far. Now winter's coming, that's going to change. But we sit on the back porch. We have a meal out there on the back deck, and my wife and I counsel together,
Right.
and that that can hit and miss. I don't recommend that for every marital pastor,
Right. But it opens
but
up to different views.
it does, and you know, and thankfully my wife does a great job, and she, you know, we do work together. There's times I'm like, okay, slow down.
You're a
It's,
team.
it's my turn.
You're a
But no,
team.
we are a team, and but it's fun to show people, and I think that's the thing that we have to realize is like we're doing life together.
Do you know what that reminds me of when you speak like that? Is remember that the very taking it way back, but Jesus loves the little children.
Yes.
Okay, there used to be an image that would play when I was a kid in the church where when that song would come on, the image was of all these stick figure people hand in hand in a
Hmm.
circle, but they were all different colors.
Yes.
And so when you speak about that, it's like
Was
that
that was that
open
last song?
conversation.
Red, yellow, black, and white, all are
Yes,
precious in His sight.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Ah, so
So
good.
that's what that reminds me of when you speak like that, is because that's the image I get in my head is that we are all different colors, different suiting, different spots.
Right.
You know, my spots aren't the same as somebody else's
No.
spots, but if we make it so we don't shame others for their spots,
Right.
you know, and it's more like what can we do to help you feel comfortable
Yeah.
in your skin
There's
and be a better.
there's different stories, but we're all the same. We're all created in His likeness. We are
Yes.
all like the
And we all have different purpose.
and that's what's fun because we all have a different purpose, but we're all valuable.
Yes.
And I think sometimes just showing people that they're valuable, showing people that they're important, and doing life together, as cliche as that can sound sometimes, um, one of the greatest things that I love to do is just spending time with people, and come over to my house, we play
Yeah.
games. They watch me interact with my
Acknowledging
children.
people,
Oh yeah.
even in the most passing by moment, just acknowledging them. You know, whether it's someone sitting in Walmart or on the side of the road asking for help, just acknowledging them, looking them in the face, eye to
Oh
eye, can really just do something, you
yeah.
know, intense.
I had a moment this weekend. There's this Renaissance festival, the Rendezvous.
Oh, my daughter really wanted
Someone.
me to go. I'm in trouble for not taking her. My oldest, my
Oh
biggest baby.
no!
So
Oops.
yeah.
No, we went Saturday. My family, we took our family out Saturday, and we had a great time doing that. And it was lunchtime on Saturday, so I get my food. I'm in line, and I recognize somebody in the line that I'm leaving the line with my food, and I see someone further back. I'm like, oh, so I go to greet this individual, and we're just talking, and I can see him get a little bit puzzled because I'm calling him out by name and everything, talking to him, and he's just we're talking.
More about
He's just puzzled, and I go, oh, so I take my sunglasses and I lift my hat, and he
because now
goes,
you look different.
Pastor Ryan. It's like I didn't recognize him. I'm like, well, yeah, it's not Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a hat. I got sunglasses, and I'm in shorts.
Okay.
And he goes, yep. It's like just surprised,
But we
but
all have many different layers.
but for him to see, like, just to let them know that I saw him,
Yeah.
and it's like idea of like I'm coming to you, you're valuable to me, um, and doing that, and I think that's why it's so important for the community is recognizing that, and so, I think even for, to kind of anchor it, it was about time where we need to wrap up,
Yeah.
but just be able to come to our kids, come to our families, and on both sides, and this is really humbling on both sides, both on the person who's in the recovery and those that are the family welcoming them back home. Both sides, open, honest communication,
Yes.
affirming the value of the other, and honestly, making those inroads and those steps to say, what do you?
And also having the ability to understand your own capability of
Yeah.
what you can help with, just like
Yes.
in a disciple, you know, not everyone has the ability to teach something, but it's whether they have the ability inside to
Right.
like maintain that.
Right.
Because if you feel like you're not able to stay standing long enough next to someone to help show them that,
Right.
it could take from your ability to stand. And so it's just
Yeah.
being aware of that, like, hey, do I need to call someone or do I need to reach out or do
Yeah.
I? It's just being aware of your own capability and the ability to have that open conversation.
Well, and the idea too, and this would be really great for the immediate family. So when I say immediate family, whether it's a spouse, of someone in recovery, or an older child of someone who's in recovery, or even a parent of someone who's in recovery, and they come back into your home, make sure that you are doing everything you can to make sure you're healthy,
Yes.
so that you can make them healthy. And not that they're dependent upon you, but just the idea that if you want to give them the best shot,
Yeah.
um,
Continue. Yeah.
yeah, make sure you're healthy, and that means um, being, and when I say healthy, I mean emotional, physically, spiritually healthy. You're taking these steps because, again, that the entire dynamic has changed,
Yeah.
which means, okay, it means your dynamic, the healthy person. Like I said, now I'm talking,
Yeah. Yeah.
now I'm talking this
Right. Yeah.
perspective, is the healthy person. Your dynamic has now changed. So what's your foundation?
Hmm.
Because you, even in recovery, it's still going to be a storm, and I put it this way, and it bugs some people. Well, it takes two to tango. So if you're entering into a storm, you're a part of that storm. Things that you say, things that you do, is going to impact that storm.
Yeah.
And so you need to make sure that your foundation is solid, so that you can, again, approach this person with what they need.
Well, and just real quick, an example that is like as simple as like my van that has was a trooper, like
Mm-hmm.
no power steering, no reverse, no, and here I am driving, and I have somebody else sitting next to me who may not be as stable and firm, and
Right.
they watch how I react.
Oh
So
yeah.
here I am, and I could be like, oh, this is it. I'm done. I'm not going to continue my day. I'm not going to continue my routine
Right.
because something went wrong. No, instead, I'm like, let's get in, let's go, let's drive. We have
Yeah.
things to do.
Yep. They need to see that consistency and see that
Yes.
pattern. I gotta say this. There's so much I want to say. This was years ago. I mean, this was over. This was almost maybe 15 years ago, 16 years ago. Um, and a buddy of mine was getting married, and so for the bachelor party for a bunch of us guys, we went out to Applebee's. It's the only place that was open late enough that wasn't technically a bar. And they're all getting drinks anyways. Well, here I am. At the time I was a youth pastor, and I have also additional personal reasons on why I don't drink. And so all my buddies are getting their drinks, and they're getting their shots and all that stuff. And I just look at the waiter and I say, "Can I have a root beer, please?" Just straight up. And they go, "Yeah, sure." And he goes to the next person, and the one guy next to me, he ordered a root beer as well. We were the only two that ordered root beers. All of the other guys, and there was a good sized group of us, all got their drinks. They pass out our drinks. They give me and the guy next to me our root beers, and he leans over to me. He goes, "Thank you so
Or
much."
he would have felt obligated to get a
He
drink.
goes, "I was an alcoholic as a teenager, and I did not want to deal with the pressure. I didn't know what to do. I was really worried when everyone started getting drinks. I can't go back, and I did not. I said, to see you getting this encouraged me so much." It's like, whoa,
And you didn't even realize that that's
no
what they
idea,
needed.
no
They
idea.
were continuing with what you needed
Right.
and your stability. Yeah.
Just and that's where that person who's in the recovery, being that strong person and saying, "Okay, we're going to continue. This is how we're going to do it," because there's somebody who is a little further down the road from you, who sees your strength, sees what you're doing, and says,
It's easy.
I need to have that too."
Yeah.
And then what do they say? "Thank you so much for encouraging me in this. Thank you so much for keeping helping me out." And that's where your strength now becomes theirs.
Yeah. Your story then helps them. Your
Yeah.
experience is now wisdom. Yeah.
So much great, just how them community,
Collaborate.
why it all has to collaborate, why it all has to come together on all sides. So thank you so much,
Yes,
Victoria.
no, it was
So,
good. It was good.
yeah. So thank you so much for joining us again. We're so sorry that Jay could not be here with us. He was at an appointment today, and so he asked us. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna be really late. Do you want to wait for me?" And we're like, "Nah, brother, you just rest. It's all right." So,
Everybody needs a day of rest.
he's taken his time, and we are blessed by him. And Victoria and I, we thank you. And so you guys have a great day. We'll see you next time.